Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back. I am Van, and we are all the LFR family. Please do me a favor, hit that like button for me, and also the subscribe button for me. And also, I'm going to have a link below for the van.hall channel. What I'm doing is I'm starting to move. I'm starting to grow my other channel because honestly, I'm a little afraid of what's happening over here. And I'll tell you guys when I go live on our 600K celebration. Shout out to everyone who's a part of our 590, 97,000 subscribers. This is crazy. This is nuts. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be so excited. I'm just, I'm weird. And I'm weird, okay? I'm appreciative, but I appreciate you. Clearly, I appreciate you guys. All right. So we just now checked out a video of Judge Joe Brown breaking it down about Trump, about Obama's history, and how he and the Bushes were always friends, and the candy and the 8 years old and the hugging, and he broke down so much. Well, that brought us over to another conversation. That's usually how algorithm works. Once you check out one, the platform will give you two. If you check out two, it'll give you 5, 10, 15, 20. That's how that works. So now we have another conversation that's in front of us where Judge Joe Brown is debating Mark Lamont Hill. Now, if you don't remember who Mark Lamont Hill is, he's an extremely intelligent young man who is featured a lot on CNN, MSNBC, and other platforms as well. He actually has his own platform on the Black News Network, I believe, BNC News. So we're going to check them out. Guys, this is fair use. I'm not going to just run it without saying anything. I'm going to react over top of it. I'm going to make noise. I'm going to talk. I'm just going to be myself. And I'm saying this specifically so that, guys, just it's fair use, okay? And you know why I'm saying this. Okay, so let's go and jump into it. Let's see if this is going to be a fair fight, if this is going to be a good conversation. And Rama, let go.
Welcome back to Black News Tonight. We are here talking once again about the case of Bill Cosby. As you know, he was released to most people's surprise yesterday, walking out of a Pennsylvania state prison. Because of a very interesting development in his case. And yesterday, many celebrities chimed in on social media.
Man, that Bill Cosby thing broke my heart, man. When he got accused of all those things that he did, and was arrested and pretty much canceled, and no more Cosby Show, which was a big part of my upbringing. You know, we used to, man, yeah, that was hurtful, but he's on to his next chapter right now. He's in probably like the third or fourth quarter of his life and won't even be able to enjoy the fruits of his labor because of the decision making that happened during the course of his life when he was flying high.
One of TV's most well-known judges, Judge Joe Brown, was one of those people who called out the way that mainstream media had been covering the story. Hours ago, he tweeted, and to be clear, much of this was in response to something I wrote, but he said, anyone who was knowledgeable of American law would have expected and predicted the outcome of the Cosby appeal. Mainstream media in Hollywood incite public disorder by lying to the people about the law and encouraging mob rule. Hollywood reacts to Bill Cosby release with shock. Here to discuss his recent comments, joining me now is Judge Joe Brown. Judge, thank you for joining me. Why do you say that mainstream media encourages mob rule?
I've talked to 43 lawyers around the country, 17 judges, and I haven't found one that was shocked by the verdict. Most saw the same thing that I did from day one. This never should have gone to trial. It's a travesty. It's a violation of due process and American law. It is part of this mess that mainstream media is trying to feed into the heads of the citizenry and poison them by saying that their emotions and their feelings are supposed to have paramountcy over what happens within the law. That's not the way it goes. I get people who never even took what they should have gotten in the 4th and 5th grade get to talking about how somebody going to disprove what these women accused Dr. Cosby of. And the truth of the matter is you don't have to. They have to prove that what they claim is true, not the other way around. That's
Wow.
American law.
Wow. Okay. Here's the thing too, and I want y'all to understand this. The reason why I listen to Judge Joe Brown when he talks is, and to be honest with you, during his court shows, I didn't like him. He seemed like a know-it-all. He seemed like somebody who was just so arrogant, like, look at me, I'm the judge. Your father is probably a crackhead. Nah, that was the wrong one. That was the wrong judge. But that was the wrong judge. That was another judge. Never mind. Okay, never mind. He just seemed like somebody that don't have anything to lose. He don't have anything to lose. He has lived his life. He has gained his success, and he has like a wealth of knowledge that he's willing to drop on people who don't have that knowledge. Now, Mark Lamont Hill also studied law, so this is going to be an interesting one.
I see too much of this. Show up on the courthouse, voice your opinion, and get the courts to yield to what you believe. That's not the way the law works. That's called mob rule.
Wow.
Mob justice. And if you want a more egregious exemplar, take what happened to Emmett Till and every other black man that's been lynched in the history of this country because somebody got emotional and decided to suborn the law, go around it, and do what their emotions drove them to do.
Yeah, I hear that, right? Sometimes people get emotional, and if they're in a position of power, they use that power outside of their, you know what I mean? If they can do it, then they do it. And that's why you don't want certain people to be in position. You really don't. You really don't. But you really don't know what type of person is in position until they're in position. That's like when they say that money don't change people. It just makes you more of who you are. Power is the same way. So
that is the way things ought to be. Law separates us from the animals, and we can't have this disregard of the law. I want to commend this Howard Dean for being forthright enough to speak out on what the reality is, and I would suggest that they need to strengthen the breadth requirements at Howard University so I don't see such ignorance coming out of this profoundly historic black university. My father went there way back in the 40s.
Well, I'm gonna let y'all know I don't care for Howard University. That's keeping it a buck, and I'm from Washington D.C. And the only reason why is because my oldest daughter Naya, y'all saw her. She used to have a YouTube. Well, she still has a YouTube channel. She just don't put on anything on there anymore. But my sweet cake, my milkshake is what I call her. She wanted to go to Howard University. That was her #1 school. And she went through high school as nothing but a 4.0 student. And she played tennis and she did well in her SATs. But Howard has to have a certain amount of people from everywhere, from California and New York and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. We got to meet all of these quotas in order to be this mixing pot. And and then they have a slew of people there who did not perform as well as my daughter, but they still didn't allow my daughter. They didn't accept her. And I'm a little salty. Sometimes you got to be a man and admit, and a woman and admit when you're salty. Yeah, that probably has nothing to do with this conversation, but hey, welcome to LFR Family.
There's two things going on at once, though, Judge.
That I have heard come out of that place lately. And if anybody
so, Judge, I think there's two things happening at once.
Justice, they ought to.
So, Judge, I think there's two things happening at once here. And I think, on the one hand, many of us are legitimately aware, and myself included, that the criminal legal system doesn't give equal outcomes to everybody, that black folk catch the worst end of this, that black men, when it comes to incarceration, get the absolute worst end of this. And the Bill Cosby case is an example of a prosecutor who was dishonest. Bill Cosby, absolutely, if he's told that you won't be prosecuted for giving this deposition, and then he gets prosecuted, that is a violation of his rights, and that is a violation of due process.
Of course it is.
On the
violation
other
of
hand,
due process.
Right. But hold on, let me
Prosecutor
finish this point, Judge.
on going forward should be disciplined.
So there's that,
It
but
was
then there's the
unethical.
other question that people. So then there's this other question that people though have, Judge, which is a legal question. I mean, which is not a legal question. I think those two things, to some extent, are getting mixed up. And the non-legal question is about whether or not Bill Cosby actually did harm. Legally, you can say he's not guilty because the not guilty stands.
He didn't do anything. American law, there is an absolute presumption of innocence until you are proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
That is true.
Using due process of
That is
law.
true.
If
That is
there
true.
was no due process of law, that presumption of innocence does not remove itself, and there is no valid conviction. If there is no valid conviction, that presumption of innocence stands as a rock for the defendant. It is to keep the government from acting in a dishonest fashion and using its powers for persecution.
So are you saying that nobody actually proved that he did what he did? So that's why he got released? I'm okay. All right, this is blowing my mind right now. Wow, so he was just accused and did all of that time, but was never proven to have done any of those things. I need to fully understand this. Okay, back to the lawyers, back to the people who know how to speak the language. Maybe they'll answer the questions if I just shut up and let me just have a Coke and smile. All right.
So Dr. Cosby
so I think we're on the same page with that.
Found guilty through due process. He hasn't done anything. So under American law, the accusations are just that. They carry no weight other than accusations, and they must be proven using due process beyond a reasonable doubt. If they have not been, then they're essentially worthless, just so much talk.
Wow.
So I think we're on the same page. So I think we're on the same page with regard to the law. I think part of the challenge, and I sent out a tweet last night that you responded to. I'm going to pull it up. It says, I said, Bill Cosby is not innocent. He has not been exonerated. His release means that Cosby, a sexual predator, was incarcerated within a criminal legal system that has as little regard for its own rules and procedures as does Cosby for his victims. And you responded, you said,
he hasn't had any. Law is a baseless accusation.
Wow.
It has no weight.
Wow.
So under the law, I think we're on the same page again. But part of the problem,
This in the 4th and 5th grade, not law school. American law means when somebody makes an accusation, that's all it is. It has no weight. If there's probable cause, you have somebody answer the complaint. But if you cannot find someone guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, they have done nothing. They walk out of there with their presumption of innocence intact.
Well, if that's the case, can we really call him a sexual predator? Guys, listen, I'm asking you this with, I don't know the law, okay? That's one. I'm not trying to say anything to make anybody feel like I am completely on Cosby's side, whether he did it or not. That's not the case at all. If I firmly believe, because I have daughters, I have a wife, I have sisters, aunts, mom, guardian who I love, women in my life that I love, okay? And I believe that if a man does anything to a woman sexually that she does not want done, that he need to be buried under the jail. I actually believe a little worse than that, but I'm not going to say that for the sake of, you know what I mean? I'm in front of a public. I don't want people to believe certain things, but at the end of the day, I'm not with that. But if you are just accused and you're never proven to be guilty, all it takes is 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, we need more people to say something. We need more people. Okay, how much it's going to cost? You can start paying people to do that. At some point, you can start paying people to do that. Like, we don't have enough people. We need 30 people. Come on, who's going to take this money? Who's going to take this money? Who wants to, get their social media back up going? Who want to get their lives back up and running? Who want to be on TV shows again? Because you got to understand the type of people that were hanging around Cosby in the first place. A lot of people who were hanging around him were a lot of women who wanted to be in the limelight but couldn't, they wanted to be close to these superstars. And a lot of bad things might have happened to them. A lot of bad things might not have happened to them. So that's all I'm trying to figure out. Was he arrested all that time from simple accusations? And don't play too much off of the word simple, from the accusations, all right? I really want to know that, because how are people arrested? How are people locked up so long and they aren't convicted of something? Like, okay, it takes us 20 years to find the truth. You know what? We ain't find nothing. You go and get out. You go and get out. Here's your shoes and your leather jacket from the 80s that you had when you went in.
How clear can that be? There is nothing
I think that
he had a right to remain
I think that part
silent.
is clear. No, I think that part's clear, Judge. Let me move the conversation forward.
The burden of proving his guilt. It did not. So he stands.
Right. So I guess what I want to do is just move the conversation up a little bit. I think you and I agree that legally he's not guilty, that legally he doesn't have any burden of proof. The state does, and it hasn't met that. Legally, his rights were violated. We're on the same page about that. I'm saying the legal question to me is rock solid. But I think what was happening yesterday was people were conflating those two things. They were acting as if because the state didn't meet its burden and because he was released based on the fact that he didn't get due process, his due process rights were violated, that was somehow proof of the belief that many people had that Cosby was actually not just legally not guilty, but actually didn't do anything at the moral and ethical level. And hold on one second. I just want to place.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, no, hold on. Let me place the question to you. So I guess what I'm saying is, can we hold space for two ideas at the same time? Can someone, under the eyes of the law, be completely not guilty, and at the same time, can we have a public conversation? Because I know you talk about culture, you talk about our community, you talk about values. Can we also talk about the fact that someone can be doing great harm and even be a predator at the same time that legally they're all the things you just said?
No. Because the law presumes them innocent until you prove them guilty. It is a specious thing. That's part of this new paradigm where everybody gets a trophy, a participation ribbon. Nobody's feelings get hurt. Freedom of speech gets restricted if somebody feels uncomfortable or undelighted by what is being said. That's not our reality.
This brother will give you the real no matter how you feel, bro. In fact, I'm gonna put that on a t-shirt, and I'm giving you the real no matter how you feel. That's better than F your feelings.
So let me ask you a question. When George Zimmerman killed Trayvon Martin and the jury found him not guilty, do you feel that the black community should not have continued to express outrage and call George Zimmerman a killer because under the law he was innocent?
That's a good question. And the reason why that's a good question is because there's so many stories that was told around that. There's so many ways that was shaped. And no matter how you slice it, the way it was presented to the black community was, I don't give a daggone if he had a badge in his pocket. He shouldn't have been there. He shouldn't have done that and blah, blah, blah. But then when you look at what he was legally... I don't know. I don't even know what this dad gonna say. But there's a lot of people who feel like he was completely 100% innocent as well. And it shouldn't have went down that way. But when it did go down that way, he had a right to defend himself because all he was trying to do was make sure that the community was safe by doing blah, blah, blah. So there's so many different ways to look at that. But the way that he presented that question, you guys cannot deny. That was a good way of, that was a good question, man. Some of y'all might not like this guy. Some of y'all might say that he's an idiot and all this other stuff. He studied law just like Judge Joe Brown. But he has picked a position, and his position is the left. His position is black culture. That's what he has picked. That's why the name of this platform is Black News. I don't know what the C is for, but this Black News something. It's Black News something. I don't know what the C is for. What is the C for? I don't know.
They should express outrage with themselves for lacking such political influence in the selection of the district attorney or in the even weight assigned to them. See, the rules are the same. But from my perspective, I think of all the black folk that have called me over the last 35 of jury service, all of the black folk that voted a handout where you've got a racist idiot on that handout for judge and they don't even pay attention to who's on the ballot. I think of all of the black folk who don't go out and vote for sheriff or effectively for mayor.
That is so true. That is so true. Culpability lies on both sides. Culpability lies on all sides. That's what I should have said. When we go to vote, we can't just only vote for the people that we saw on TV that says vote for me. The people that's been fed to us by our social media, by whatever platform we decide to look at. And if it's MSNBC, CNN, Fox, we can't only go and vote. Oh, it's time to go vote for president. Well, guess what? It's like 40 other people on the ballot that are running. Are you paying attention to what's going on? Are you stopping to read? Are you researching these people that are coming up? Most people do not. So he is saying that when times like these come up and certain justices go through that we don't feel is right or correct, we can't really have a say so at this point, because it's the same thing I say to people all the time, bro. You can't complain about the government if you don't vote, because that's your right. Your right is to vote. You got to do your own due diligence. You got to do your own research. You got to have an understanding of what you're voting for. And then it's just like everybody in your community, everybody in your city, your county, your state have to pay attention. And if you don't pay attention, this is what's going to happen. We're going to get our friends jobs. And our friends are going to have high jobs, like really high jobs. All right. And they're going to be the ones making decisions for you. And then you're going to feel like you have a right to complain when you do not, because you could have prevented that. Maybe I'm saying that wrong. Okay.
Or for the district attorney and complain about it. See, when you have an opportunity to do something about it, do it. And see, most of the people that are off in the penitentiaries are not in there for playing Robin Hood. They robbed from their neighbors, burglarized their neighbors, killed their neighbors, raped their neighbors, sold poison to their neighbors. And the other thing is, it's not guns. It's not any excuse. It's we have got a lack of manhood and masculinity in our neighborhoods. See, masculinity is the imposition of a set of behavioral standards on a boy. So when the boy grows into a man, he has some things he has to do that he cannot get away with, that he is compelled to look to, making where he lives a better, safer, more secure place filled with economic prosperity, sense of purpose, morality, and ethics. He is a man of public peace, dignity, and order, who is a man of peace, who can be a brave and courageous man when necessary.
That right there need to be made into a short. That need to be made into a short. Him breaking down what a man is, what it takes to be a man. And then when you fall and you start doing unmanly sugar honey iced tea and you end up in behind them bars, he's explained to you why when you thought you were a man, you were clearly not. Because you left, you risked it all for your own arrogance, your own greed, and based off of your own ignorance, and ended up leaving behind people you were responsible for. You was responsible for helping to raise, because some of these men are leaving behind their children. You were leaving behind your sisters and your brothers. You were leaving behind the women you decided to start a family with. You were leaving behind your mom, your parents, your friends. You wasn't doing what you had to do. If you're in jail, then you're not out getting an education, understanding what's next, and doing what you have to do in order for your children to have a better future. So it's so many decisions that are being disregarded simply because we want to do something else or we don't want to do something else. I was just now talking to my guardian. I had to pick her up so she can run some errands. I pick her up probably like a couple of times a month so she can do some errands, so she can go run and do some errands. And we was in the car just having a good conversation. Usually we do. And she was just breaking down the differences of mindsets, depending on where you're from and your upbringing and how irresponsible people are and how sometimes we are just so selfish that we choose us before anyone. And it's unfortunate because we end up here. But we want to put all of the blame on someone else. I saw this other short, and I'm about to get back to this. I saw this other short where a gentleman was having a conversation with, what's his name? The dude is he wild as hell. What's his daggone name? Harrison? Goodness gracious, I need to think of his name. He was having a conversation with him, and he was saying that that people are, these youngins that's rapping, these hip hop artists that's rapping about killing and all this other stuff. The only reason why they're doing it is because of the white man. And the gentleman was like, hell nah, they not. You came to my studio, to my company with all your killer N-word music. All I did was pay you. He was like, but you paid me with a huge check, so that made me want to do it. So you're the reason why we're doing it. He was like, no, I'm not the reason why you're out there killing people. I'm not the reason why you're out there selling drugs. I'm not the reason why you're out there doing half of the things that you're describing in this music. But because I'm paying you for it, now all of the white men are responsible for what you're doing and what's going on in your community. No, stop blaming other people. Take responsibility. Be accountable. And then once you're accountable, then you start making adult, grown man decisions. I've talked too much.
See, we have to start taking
Judge, let me pause you for a minute.
Back.
We're going to take a... Judge, I want to hear more about that, Judge. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to take a quick break and bring you right back. I'm going to push you on some of those things as well. Stay with me. We got more Black News Tonight coming up right after this. Welcome back to Black News Tonight. We're talking Bill Cosby and the aftermath of his case. I'm here with Judge Joe Brown. Judge, again, early in the conversation, we sort of stipulated to the legal parts of this, and we both agree that everyone deserves the right to due process, and no one should be sitting in prison or jail for something that they either didn't do or if their rights are violated, or both. But you've also raised this interesting question that I think is worth unpacking a bit, and that's about ethics and morality within the Black community and holding each other accountable and talking about manhood and masculinity. If we, again, assuming Bill Cosby doesn't take the legal stuff off the table, if we look at the depositions, the very thing that got him ultimately...
Listening to Lamont Hill talk, man, Mark Lamont Hill talk, and all I see is a young man who made some good decisions. I see a young man who made some good decisions. He probably made some bad decisions too, but he made some good decisions. That's why we're looking at him, listening to him right now. How in the world, bro, are you still sticking to the fact that men can have babies based off of who identifies as one? You do realize that you're helping people move further and further and further along from God, right? They're moving further and further and further away. The more we preach that, the more people are moving further and further and further away from God. The further away we move from God, the worse we become. Hopefully you understand that. Sometimes we got to have a line in the sand. We got to decide that, no, I'm not crossing this right here. This is my stop. You can let me off right here. Y'all can keep this. Y'all can keep going, but not me. Because you have a platform. You have a huge platform. You cannot do that. And I'm talking specifically about your conversation that you had with Candace Owens. That right there, bro. I was expecting a little more. and the way that you were debating it, and it was like you were a public defender of the LGBTQ community, and you're not even in it. You're not even in it, but you were like a public defender of the community, trying to defend certain ideologies that come from that side. And I don't understand that, because right now when I look at you, I'm hearing a young, bright man. That's what I'm hearing.
The thing that ultimately got him locked up. And those depositions, and he's talking about the various women he had sex with giving them alcohol in pills, whether it's Quaaludes or Benadryl. If you look at the dozens of women who come forward and accuse him, is there room to say, look, Bill Cosby can come home because the prosecutor was wrong, but Bill Cosby also has to be accountable for what he represents and for acts of and for predator-like behavior?
What about these women being accountable for their own behavior? They were groupies. Well, you know, sex, drugs, rock and roll, sex, drugs, rap, sex, drugs, baseball, football, basketball, movies, television. See.
Yeah, but right now I'm talking about Bill Cosby. I'm saying
we forgot what that term meant. Sex, drugs, rock and roll. The bimbos come to the party, they hang out, they get drunk, they snort lines of blow. And
hey, look at Mark Lamar Hill's face. He's like, whoa, brother, I dare you say anything negative about the victims. What are you doing? I dare you. No culpability on their part. No, it's culpability on all parts. Sorry, it is. It really is. And I'm glad he's making that point right there, because we need to be adult about this. We really need to be adult about this, and we need to stop being afraid to hurt people's feelings in order to have this conversation. This is important. This is important because when we're raising daughters, we tell them not to be that. That's what we tell them, not to be that. Don't even put yourself in a position to have somebody be able to take advantage of you like that. Period. Don't listen. If that's not your, don't look away from that cup. First of all, don't just drink anything that anybody hands you. Second of all, and watch your surroundings, watch your friends, make sure y'all watching each other. Like, it's so many rules with this. But for some strange reason, every single time something happens, all we want to do is focus on the victim. I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that, because everybody is like, we talk to the victim on our way home. I'm glad you're all right, baby. I'm so glad you're okay. But when but you know you weren't supposed to be doing that, right? We're not gonna say this around anybody else, but you know you wasn't supposed to be around those people. You know you wasn't. We told you many times what type of stuff happens at these type of environments. You can't be that. You can't be around this. Like, we're going to support you 1,000%. We're not saying it's your fault. We're not saying it's your fault, because it's not your fault. The fault is on the perpetrator. Period. But culpability, some of it goes to the victim as well, sometimes, depending on what you decide to do, who you decide to be around, and what you and how many times, like, a lot of these people who are on this list, these lists of people who claim that they were violated, were mainstays. Like, they were always around. Like, they came around often. This was just what we did. This was the party to be a part. This is how we roll. And looking at old documentaries, it wasn't only Cosby that was getting down like that. It was everybody at them parties. It got weird.
And they have a good time. They use the hall closets to give head, the bathrooms to get down. And you go in to get your coat off of the bed, and they're laying on top of it doing somebody. See, that's what that's about.
Hold up, Mark. Before you say something, realize you talking to an OG that might have been at some of them parties. He's looking, if you can look in Judge Joe Brown's face right now, it looks to me like he witnessed some of those happenings. He's seen it for himself. As a matter of fact, he might have been involved in a couple of them. He's telling the truth. I don't know if he's telling his, but he's telling someone's. And I don't know if he's telling on himself, because I don't know if he will implicate himself like this. But he'll definitely just put it out there that this is what happened at these parties, and these young ladies wanted to be there, needed to be there, and they brought their friends so that they can also be there because this was the place to be.
So,
Yeah,
I mean,
but Judge,
let's not
it has
get
to be consensual,
25,
though.
30, 40, 50 years after something was in big time style. When this stuff started out, the sexual revolution was going on. And a lot of women got into it deeply.
Okay, but so there's two things you raised.
The
But
point
first,
is,
but first,
it's
let's talk about Bill
horrible when a
Cosby.
woman's
We can talk about the women, but let's talk about Bill Cosby. Let's talk about Bill Cosby for a second, because that's the person we're talking about. My question was, is there room to what did he do? Well, according to the deposition, he gave women pills, and in one deposition, he specifically said he didn't know whether.
Force it down their throat,
no, let me finish.
He didn't take advantage of them. Look at that interview Whoopi Goldberg did with that model Johnson. Whoopi got all on. Said, wait a minute, you're trying to tell me that
hold on, Judge, let me ask the
he
question.
found out you were high, he called the cab, took the elevator down with you, put you in the cab, paid your fare, tipped the man, and sent you home because you were high? So what did he do?
So in one deposition.
Whoa, Whoopi did that?
So Judge, in one deposition specifically, when he was asked the question, was he sure that the woman was sober enough to consent? He said, I don't know. But there's a bigger question here: is if someone willingly takes pills and becomes high and drunk, can they legally consent?
Sometimes you can. Used to be you could. They had a change in there back 25 years ago when they were saying, no, you can't. But before that, basically, you could. That's why they told you.
So, but we're talking about the law. So then, Judge, again, since you're saying we should appeal to the law, if the law says that you can't be
intoxication, where you did something to them they didn't consent to. See, that's when that law started changing from you got yourself drunk, you're responsible to know the bartender's responsible because he lets you get drunk. That's when that change started coming about.
Bill Cosby's admitting.
So everybody was blaming everybody.
Bill Cosby's admitting to giving women alcohol and pills for the purpose of having sex, and if by the law you can't consent if you're drunk or high.
You go out to dinner or you have a party or something. So
yeah, but that's not the same. That's irrelevant, Judge.
Because they do something they would have done anyway. A whole lot of them I knew back in the years would take
sexual
drugs,
assault, Judge.
particularly Quaaludes. They did that a lot. I had a lot of female clients I had to get out of messes because they had a fondness for Quaaludes. It's not cool, but
it's okay to take.
Don't you bear any responsibility for this, especially if you keep going back?
So, Judge, let me. I want to lay this out plainly, just so, and I'll give you a chance to respond. I'll even give you the last word. If you give someone drugs and alcohol, even if they want to take the drugs and alcohol, if they get to a point where they are inebriated, where they are high or drunk, you cannot have sex with them. It is not sex; it becomes rape. And even by the legal standard that you're saying we should appeal to,
that's only the law in certain states. It's not for every state. And it goes into the same philosophy. It goes into the same thing. I didn't know I was going to get that drunk, so it ain't my fault I got a DUI and kill somebody. How you think that's going to float?
Right, but the difference is the drunk
Plus, you
person has
have
a responsibility
people
to
on the East Coast who want a new
drunk person has a
category
responsibility
of
not to
felony
get
rape.
into the
It's
car.
called rape
But
by
the drunk
seduction.
person does not have a
In other words,
responsibility
you take
not
the
to give
woman out,
the responsibility.
and you decide to
If
have
we're
a
talking
good
about
meal,
responsibility,
linen, candlelight,
talking about
wine,
responsibility,
dine. You go for a walk in the park, my place or yours. Get over there, kissy, kissy, poo, seduction, clothes come off. Everybody has a good time. This crowd wants that to be called
everybody isn't having a good time. One person's being assaulted. Right, but what I'm saying, Judge, and I got to run.
See, that's the point. He never admitted to what he did, was accused of, which is
how many people in your court admitted to what they did
all
that
they
were
did
guilty?
Was they asked for it, I supplied it. They wanted it.
Okay, this
That's
is
like
just
put some
flat out rape
candles
at this
on and
point.
some incense when we do it. Let's go out and have
No,
a fine meal.
Yeah. So I'm gonna let y'all know, man, this whole conversation was uncomfortable for me. And hopefully I didn't say anything to offend anyone. If I did, charge it to my mind, not my heart. But this got a bit uncomfortable for me because I do realize that there are a great deal of people out there who are victims of abuse, sexual assault, rape, and men and women, children as well. And I don't take this lightly at all. I do believe that culpability is on all sides, and especially in certain environments, because I see far too many videos, even today, far too many videos of men and women getting toe up from the flow up, about to throw up. Hopefully they don't. But, you know, smoking, drinking, doing all types of drugs and everything. And stuff happens. Sexual things happen. Which of those parties were responsible enough to make any type of decisions at that point? In my opinion, neither, because they were both highly inebriated. And they came to the function for that purpose. Now, some people just want to get toe up and don't want to get felt up. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes they make it clear. No, I'm not here for this. I'm here because I want to have a good time. I want to party. I want to, you know, do all the things that maybe I had a rough week, and I will take a cup with a couple of Quaaludes in it and some alcohol because I want to forget everything that's been going on. Does that make it right? Heck no, it don't. Because if I won't advise my children to do it, then it's a reason for that. It's because it's irresponsible. It's irresponsible, and it's something that I won't back. Now, if one of my kids were to do these irresponsible deeds, and then something was to happen to them, I will be freaking pissed. I will be pissed off. And I probably wouldn't blame them for anything, because that's what we do for those we protect. That's just how they go. But we do know that if that was to happen, if those type of situations all lined up that way, listen, the people who are going to be charging you all, the people who are going to be taking your blood levels, either at the hospitals or prayerfully nothing happened on the way to the hospital, or nobody got hurt or injured in a car accident or something like that, because this happens a lot. So many people are out there driving inebriated. You know, they're operating 2,000-pound vehicles, 4,000-pound vehicles, inebriated, like off their rocker completely. But then they believe that they can make decisions for themselves. No, you cannot. So at some point, what Judge Joe Brown is trying to communicate to this guy, Mark Lamont Hill, is at some point we need to be responsible for ourselves. We need to watch out for ourselves because no one else will. And if we're not, we got to live with our decisions. Wow, this whole thing was uncomfortable. Y'all let me know whatever y'all want me to know in the comments below. And if you have yet to hit that subscribe button, please make sure you do so on your way out the door. Once again, guys, I'm Van, and now we are all the LFR family. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video, hopefully inside the Patreon as well. Y'all have been amazing per usual, man. Love y'all.